Hi everybody, welcome again to the Yeshiva classroom where we're on every week at this time, and we want to try to bring you the beauty of Torah and of Judaism. Where do we begin? You know, today is being recorded on pre-recorded on Wednesday, April 13th, 2022, which is a few days before Passover. You know, you mentioned the word Passover. You know, that word is taken from the Torah, where the houses of the Jewish people were dabbed with blood so as to show the angel to pass over the houses of the Jewish people and destroy the firstborn of the Egyptians, which was the 10th plague. Now it's interesting to note that it means pass over the Jewish people and destroy the Gentiles. And that's how life is in general, because the Jewish people are the firstborn son of God. In Exodus chapter 4 verse 22, Bnei Yisrael are my firstborn. And he passed over those Jewish people so that they can continue to live and practice the laws and way of life of the Torah, to give us perfection or holiness when we return to our Maker after 120 years. But it says pass over, and that means to pass over the disloyal nations who have corrupted us throughout the ages. And we're talking about the country of Egypt, which was destroyed. And we don't know anything about them anymore. It's not the culture that we have today in Egypt, but it's the past culture of the time of the exit from Egypt that is no longer. And so it is with all our distractors and all our enemies. We don't have Rome like the Romans who lived in the time of destruction of the temple. We don't have Persia. We don't have Assyria. We don't have these countries anymore. They are destroyed. And those nations are destroyed together with this disloyal fifth columnist of the Jewish people today. They are destroyed too. They pass over. And that's why it's so important to understand the Torah. And you know, where can we start off in the Torah? Gee, there's so many places to begin with. You know, the Ten Commandments that the Gentiles picked out to honor. And basically, they were given at Mount Sinai. At Mount Sinai to the Jewish people. They were given to the Jewish people, the Ten Commandments, as was the entire Torah. Let me explain. You know, the first commandment of the Ten Commandments is, I am the Lord your God. I am the Lord your God. It's talking to the Jewish people who are assembled at the foot of the mountain at Mount Sinai. I am the Lord your God who took you out of the land of Egypt. What are those words? They're very significant. Took you out of the land of Egypt, meaning that God is able to come and work with people, with the Jewish people especially, to help them and to understand the principles behind Judaism. Who took you out of the land of Egypt. In other words, it was God together with his angels taking us out of the land of Egypt. And we see from there that man together with God works man's free will. How so? You know, a man has the ability to choose between right and wrong, but only God determines if that act will come into fruition. In other words, you know, Abraham, the first Jew, was chosen by God. He was chosen by God to have his descendants live the way of the Torah. And that's why it says, you know, you should copy these phrases down, because I'm going to give you several of them during the course of this teaching. And basically, it's in Genesis chapter 18, verse 19, it says, I am the Lord your God. Again, let me go back. In chapter 18, verse 19, it says, I have chosen Abraham because I know that he will teach his children and his household the ways of God, of charity, kindness, and justice. For I know that Abraham will teach his children and his household the ways of God, of charity, kindness, and justice. So it begs the question, well, how does God know what Abraham is going to do if God already knows what is happening? Where is man's free will? You know, so basically it means that free will, you know, right away from the first commandment, we can learn free will. Free will. Man has free will. He can choose whatever he likes, whether good or bad. But the partner in that scenario is God, because God is the determinant factor of whether this thought that man has will come into fruition. So that's why we know from chapter 18, verse 19, how God knows what Abraham will do, because he is the determinant factor in man's free will, right? Man can think, but the actual act that takes place, the motion that is necessary for that act to come in fruition, is controlled by God. So that's a very important concept, and we learn these concepts are just hinted to us in the Bible, but the Talmud goes over and explains in detail what these particulars are. So, you know, you can catch us anytime, Yeshiva Classroom, on the Google search, Yeshiva Classroom. That's all you need. And type 405, tape number 455, which is the latest tape. This is a telephone number if you want to speak to us personally. Ask for Tuli regarding anyone who wants to learn Torah. But right now I'm going to talk about how we prepare ourselves for the coming week, which has a portion of the Torah. And let me just tell you that this paper that's found on your newsstands free in the Five-Town area of Nassau County, where you have these periodicals given out in front of the door. They're just stacked there. Call Save, Gourmet Glot, Seasons, many places. These papers and other competitors have their papers piled up for people to take. Now, what is so different about this paper that I pick up every week is that most of it is about Torah. Very few advertisements. Very few advertisements. And it has in it the 24 contributors of the paper, and they give thoughts on the portion that is being read that Shabbos. It comes out on Thursday. Look it up on. You pick it up and it's there for the whole week if there's still those left. But look at the contributors that are there. You know, Rabbi Sachs, Rabbi Haber. I especially look at very interesting thoughts they give over there, and yeah, so they're very interesting. And I try to read the Sedra in English, right? And then I look at these commentators, and together I try to get a feel of the Torah portion, which is going to be read that coming Saturday. So you know, this last week prior to today, Sedra, was dealt with the Mesorah, and it's so important to understand this Sedra, this portion, because many people just gloss over it because it seems that it's out of kink with today's society. But let me explain the importance of this portion, because, you know, Mesorah means the person that is afflicted with leprosy, and he is going to be cured of this physical ailment. But basically, it's a physical ailment. We don't know what it is. Some kind of a scab or swelling of areas, discoloration, and it's because of several reasons that he has been afflicted. Of course, today it doesn't apply. Just like you know, we're at such a low level that those miraculous afflictions or what have you are no longer applicable. And the same thing with the sota, the woman who drank the water that was filled with other ingredients, or the determining whether she was adulterous, or the paraduma, how the red cow is able to, the ashes of the paraduma is able to purify the subject of tumah, spiritual uncleanness. So the point is, we're going to concentrate on Mesorah, and basically, you know, we bring out, which is lashon hara, or evil speech, speaking bad about someone, even though it's true. Even though it's true, but you're speaking bad about someone. You have to temper your words with understanding. And here, in this case, we can bring out the Joseph in the Bible, Joseph HaTzadik, Joseph the righteous one, who was one of 12 brothers, who was fathered by Jacob, and he was out excuse me. He was out working with his brothers in the field, and he saw that they did things that were not according to the precepts of the Torah. And he reported it to his father. And this is mentioned in the Torah, or maybe just going through the Torah, but it delves into detail in the Talmud. So what happened? The father spoke to the children about their neglect of Torah, and the brothers were upset at Joseph. They wanted to kill him, and they exiled him. And they exiled him into Egypt on account of words that were spoken not in the best sense and with the best tact. And this evil inclination or evil talk breaks the party, breaks the group. Joseph was exiled. And so Rabbi Sachs brought down that they did a sociological study, and there was one study of these people in these islands off of in the Pacific, where these islanders met ever so often, and they continuously met. The same people came, and they came to the same place every year, what time or whatever it was, and they were always there. And they wondered what kept them so cohesive that they should return ever so often. And the answer was that they found out that when they got together, they were not critical of one another, but they only spoke of small talk, of the weather, how's the fishing, what's doing with your family, how are the children, anybody sick, and it was like a gossiping type of pleasantries that it kept them together. And this Lashon Hara, speaking evil, is really found in the Torah under Leviticus 19:16 or Exodus chapter 19:16, where it said you should not be a gossip monger amongst your people. You should not be a gossip monger. And a subset of that is speaking evil of someone. Speaking evil of someone, even though it may be the truth. So what happened over here was Joseph was exiled. And there are many cases of where the Jewish people have suffered because their co-religionists, not educated, have turned these truths and turned them around and to the authorities that were there, and they were eventually exiled. And in France they burned the Talmud, and in Spain they exiled the people. In Germany, Pfefferkorn, the apostate, right? He was a Jew, but he took the words of the Torah and he gave it to the German city-states and had the Jews expelled. This is what the Talmud teaches. And we have Donin in France, another apostate, and in Spain you had Pablo Cristiani, another apostate, who took the words out of context. And eventually they were expelled from France in 1492. So it's a very important sedra. And once we gain our land and all the people are religious and observant, and Messiah and Mashiach, the real Mashiach, will come and bring the Jews back to the land, and then we'll put into play all the practices that the Torah teaches us, including the laws of the Masorah, the laws of Lashon Hara, the laws of speaking evil even though they're truth. And that's why we want to study them every year when that time comes around, so that we can understand how to put into practice those people who did transgressions of speaking falsely, and basically if we study the Sedra, we'll be understanding of how we treat such a patient, and basically the Torah says that he is brought together with the bird, which is captive and now let loose, and then he sees all of this and experiences these sights of the hyssop and the cedar tied together. But I'm not going to go into all the details of why the significance of everything is. That's the first stage, to see if he's getting better, if he's controlling himself on his speech. And the next stage is when he is completely shaved of all his hair. And then in third stage is that he brings 3 lambs, and there's a whole ceremony with the lambs, and then the one lamb, its blood is dabbed on the patient's ear, and another is dabbed on his right thumb, and another on his large toe, and on his foot. All meaningful, all seeing that this patient is becoming healthy again, and it will not speak evil in a demeaning term. Yeah. Okay. Look. So much for that. Where are we going to go from here? Look. Today we have in the Ukraine awful things that are happening, and we feel terrible of what happened to the Ukrainians, and as what is consistently happening with Russia attacking them, and in the 21st century. Could you believe that this could happen? That one man can rule? You know, they had a purge of these generals because they wanted to get rid of him, or possibly get rid of him. But can you imagine in the 21st century shooting bombs and at civilians, and doing the old practice of taking one group of people and bringing them to another area, like they're doing it in Ukraine? They're bringing them to the civilians that they didn't shoot. They bring them to another area, be re-indoctrinated. That's what they did in the 10 tribes in Israel. They took them out and brought them to another area, and brought the Samaritans to Israel. And you know, that's another story in itself. But here, you know, we pray every day about the going out of Egypt and the miraculous events that occurred, and also to pray that that God should take nekama or revenge on the Gentiles who have persecuted and harmed Jews. We don't ask for revenge or nekama. It's God that has the authority to make the revenge for us. But we do not, as Jewish people, ask or personally revenge for atrocities committed against the Jewish people. But bear in mind that, you know, Hitler came across the scene, and why was the cause of the Hitlerites? That's because the Jews went away from the Torah, and they went out of bounds and converting and believing in a man God in mass, and so those righteous people he took all at once, so that they will have the Olam Haba, the real world that we're here for, to prepare in the anteroom so that we may enjoy the feast. Prepare in the anteroom. This world is the anteroom. And in Ukraine, we should remember that it's God that's taking revenge on those Ukrainians. But they weren't there when the time of Babi Yar. These Ukrainians, there were 33,000 Jewish men, women, and children were murdered, machine gunned in 2 days. There were eyewitnesses' accounts, and the witnesses said they didn't speak German; they spoke Ukrainian. So we're not taking revenge, but God is taking revenge for hurting the people. But they weren't there. Yeah, but those Jews that were killed, the children and young adults, never had families. So here, their families, they were not able to marry or produce children. But here, these children, that these Ukrainians, murderers, who did in 1942, putting up a pit of 33,000 run after, pushed into the, layered on top one of another, machine gun with German Shepherd dogs pushing them and SS beating them. God remembers everything. God, look at the Psalm for Wednesday. God remembers. God is a God of justice and revenge. But the real justice and the real revenge is in the next world, where we have a chapter in Deuteronomy chapter 32-39. I wound and I heal. I cause death and I cause life, and no one can bring them, and no one can save them. Again, chapter 32-39 in Deuteronomy. I bring to death, I bring to life. I wound and I heal, but no one can save them from my hand. No one can save them from my hand. Yes, those evil people, Hitler and his ilk, were brought to power, and they still are by God, but they are still responsible for carrying out these acts. Yes, we are the people of the book, and we are the people of the deed. We are sending ambulances and medical supplies to the Ukrainians to help them as best that we can, even though the United States, with the UN ambassador, who is it, Thomas Greenfield, pressuring Israel to condemn Russia, for their ugly, horrific crimes that they are pursuing, so that America will have complete authority over Israel, because then they can't go to Russia, because now Russia is it lets the Jewish people go into Syria and bomb Hamas and ISIS over there. So that's what the Biden administration is up to, just making it evil for the Jewish people. And because of that, they're going to be we're going to pay the consequences. Right? It says over there in Bereshit, Genesis chapter 12:3, chapter 12:3, whoever curses the Jewish people will be cursed, and whoever blesses the Jewish people will be blessed. That's in Genesis 12:3, and the same sentence is used in Numbers chapter 24:9. Chapter 24:9, the same sentence. I will curse those who curse my people, and I will bless those who bless my people. Because God chose us as His special people. God chose us. But before I leave this subject, let me not be misquoted by saying that we are for humanitarian help in any which way we can, whether it's an earthquake or a typhoon throughout the world. The Jewish people will be there to help you and to bring peace and happiness to the world. Okay, they're talking about war crimes, right? Well, what about the war crimes that were committed by the Nazis? Did anybody go out and investigate? Did anybody bring these criminals to justice? 10 leaders were hung? That's not sufficient. What about the Einzelgruppe that went around killing Jews? And they have the names of the members of this Einsatzgruppe. 4, which was active in Ukraine, or 3, which was active in the Baltic states, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, where they reported to Berlin that all the Jews are out. It's Juden free. What about those criminals? Well, they're dead, but that's all right. I want to know who they were. I want the names. I want the memorial plaques telling the people of their descendants what horrific crimes they did. What horrific crimes they did. And here we have we have a picture of our friendly Germans here, the doctors. Yeah, but they have records. Germans keep records. Here are the doctors over here that experimented on Jewish patients. Your friendly doctor, the Germans, where they will get their punishment, definitely, in the next world. Here they're coming across, they come from Berlin to Auschwitz and all the concentration camps, and see how our patients are doing, where they slowly putting them to death under experimental, quote-unquote, conditions to help the Germans. Where are these people? Where are the names? Where are they brought to war crimes? What, is Jewish blood less red than the Ukrainians that are going to be that were killed and by the Russians? Are they not less liable for war crimes? Okay, so we're doing a lot of talking here, but I want to tell you that I and many of us have lost our families altogether because we heard and contact with them before the war, but after the war, nothing. And even though we will see justice done, that's why, it says over there, suffering, Jews suffer. And some of the things about suffering is that when an anti-Semite, for no reason, attacks a Jew, like in Elizabeth, New Jersey, that just the past day they ran over a Jewish woman repeatedly, and yeah, so what was I going to say here? So anti-Semitism was rife, and we must address that issue and bring it to justice. So that is so much for the Sedra, and we bring up the question of why do the righteous suffer and the evil people are living a life of so-called the life of Riley with no problems whatsoever. And the Gemara goes into detail. Maybe there's a little bit of evil in this righteous person, or maybe there is a little bit of good in this evil person, and so therefore they're being rewarded now. But it's interesting to note in Exodus chapter 34:19 that I will show favor to whom I will show favor, and I will show mercy to whom I will show mercy. So it's not only deeds that happen, but it's God who will determine whether it goes by His standards and showing that He is merciful even to the evil perpetrators. So the main thing is we have to learn ourselves. We have to learn ourselves, and the studies show that many of the graduates of day schools and yeshivas are not observant as they grow older, and that's because of a couple of reasons. You know, God made man. The psychologists say that God put the nature in man, but once he's born, it's up to man to mature, hopefully in the right direction. And so that's what it is in Judaism. That some people have a soul that is so attuned to doing and following Judaism, and no matter where they are, even though they had no education, they will seek the truth. It's just like water will find its way out, and so it is with a Jew. He can be who knows where, but he can work his way into the truth, into the yeshiva, and we see Judaism, authentic Judaism, followers of the Torah, and not fifth columnists who want to create havoc and create all kind of new religions. You know, Reform in America, it was in the early 1800s. You know. And they just threw everything out. They just changed, move with the culture, with the times. You know, this is in style. Fine, it goes against Judaism. No, it's not important. Judaism is not important. So it was like in 1880 they had a convention in Cincinnati, the Hebrew Union College, which today on the internet, Oretz, I saw that they no longer give degrees in ignorance, quote-unquote Judaism. So, yeah, they get degrees in ignorance, and with that degree, they want to make their congregations ignorant. Yeah, they get a degree in ignorance, and make their congregation ignorant of Judaism and what they feel is quote-unquote progressives. Yeah. So, you know, I got tangential, and I lost my line of thought. Yeah, so anyway, so what happened? The Reform had a convention, a rabbinical quote-unquote convention in Cincinnati, in 1880s. And what was on the menu? They had what they had, oysters, all non-kosher foods, and what do they call those things? Not grasshoppers, but frogs legs. That was the entree. Frogs legs and oysters, which are prohibited under Jewish law. But they said, you know, this is America. We got to go with the times. But some of the people said, hey, that's too far. That's too far for us, you know. So they were branded conservatives, right? And today we have the offshoot of the conservatives, you know, make you feel good that the rabbi, the so-called rabbi, is saying that it's okay, it's permitted. So look, I'm giving a lot of criticism here, and well, I'm criticizing how do you have a Jewish school with interscholastic sports events. You have schools that this school plays this team, and that team plays another day school, and they have great uniforms, and they have coaches. They hire coaches, yeshiva money, and then the coaches they have to have practice. Right? You have to look good. You have to practice the plays, and this is where are they going to learn? Who's going to learn Torah? That's the day school for you. And then they go into volleyball, and then the football they have interscholastic, and they should be teaching self-defense courses. And the rabbi said, well, the boys don't want it. They don't want that. They want to have sports. They want to have sports. That's like you're telling a parent, you know, this is what the children want. You have to give them what's good for them. And that means to understand the Torah. And if you don't get it, you don't have the inclination, the zitzfleisch or whatever, then you have spend on private tutors. Spend private tutoring for these boys, but not to go play sports. And they say, well, where did I fail? You send your children to the school, and where they learn how to play sports. No wonder they're turned off. And it's not going to be easy. Some people it's going to be harder for, but you got to put time. And that's why I want to tell you what I do, and that's what everyone should be doing. Working for the next world, right? Working for the next world. And that's becoming holy by doing the mitzvahs. And what does the mitzvahs give? Gram, G-R-A-M. G-R-A-M stands for what the mitzvahs do for you. G stands for gratitude for everything God has given you, and especially when you say a blessing over food or something that you imbibe. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam. You, Lord our God. Then you go back to the first word, Baruch, who is the source of all blessing and goodness, created everything with His word. Shahakol niyeh bidvaro, created everything with His word. You say, well, look, the Bible only goes back 5,000 years, 6,000 years. Look, we've got carbon dating. Carbon dating! It tells you the world, this is 10 million, this is 4 million, 2 million, geology. The baloney. You know, they found in the Cave of Horrors, look it up on the internet. Cave of Horrors, H-O-R-R-O-S, Horrors. Cave of Horrors, where they found 47 skeletons, and one of the skeletons had a bag of gold coins, and it had a, they were minted in the time of Bar Kokhba, beginning of the Common Era, before the Common Era, right? It started at the God-man's death, who was circumcised, who was born of a Jewish mother, but was fathered immaculately by a god, and he celebrated his birthday on his birth, which was a feast day, and then 8 days later he was circumcised, and now they don't want to believe in any circumcised individual, but their man god was circumcised. Yeah, so I'm digging a lot out here. I lost my train of thought when I go tangential. So yeah, the mitzvahs give a grammar. G-R-A-M. G is gratitude, or they refine us. A, they set us apart from the goyim and their thoughts, and they G-R-A-M, and they are yeah, we got G-R-A-M, set us apart, and M. You have to look that up and get back to your senior moment. So that's yeah. So the cave. Yeah. So the senior moment. The cave of horrors. So they found the skeleton with coins which were dated in the 70 Common Era. And then they came across a basket, carbon dated the basket because it was grass, right? And they came up with the 10,000 years, it was made 10,000 years ago. The basket that this skeleton was near had a carbon dating of 10,000 years in the Bronze Age. 10,000 years, but how could that be? The skeleton there's 70, only 70 of these people died. So they took that off. You don't see that anymore where the basket was carbon dated. And that's the same thing with geology. They're telling you that, you know, they can't carbon date a rock. You know, they say this rock is 10,000 to 1 million years, this is 2 million years, whatever they want to put down arbitrarily. But they don't realize we don't realize how they came at that point, because geology is a farce. What they did is, if they found a rock, whether it's Jurassic or Cambrian, Precambrian, and they found simple-celled fossil in it, not that it was exclusive simple-celled fossils, but it had a lot of simple-celled fossils. So they said this rock is 2 million years old. Something with more fossils that are more complex, 500,000 years of age. Then that's how they arbitrarily determine the age of the rock according to the fossils that they found. It's a farce. We're here 5,782. That's how many years the earth was created. Bereshis bara Elokim es hashamayim v'es haaretz. Everything was created on the first day, and they were brought down on subsequent days. So I want to speak about. Yeah, I jotted some notes down here. See, what should I? Let's see, what should I talk about that? You know, and God was with the Jewish people for 40 years. and he asked the people to make for me a mishkan so that I may dwell amongst you. That's in Exodus 25:8. Make for me a mishkan so that I will dwell amongst you. And that was the portable temple. The portable temple that God had the people construct according to specifications. And the pillar of cloud stood in front of the Mishkan, and Moses went there, and the people could see the pillar of cloud conversing with Moses. That's in Exodus, or is it chapter 32? Right? Yeah. So here we have millions of people that witness this, and that's why we're still witnessing and declaring the truth of Judaism, the truth of Judaism, that we still have it, and we are we're happy to bring it to the other nations, right? So just look at Chabad. I'm not Chabad. I don't have that Hasidic feeling of a rabbi. But look, they're sending their people all over the place. I'm originally from Delaware. Oh, my Delaware, my beloved Delaware, for the sun is shining of... Yeah, I went to school in Delaware, right? Right, so what happened, till... I used to daven in this little shul, and we had such a beautiful time. I was the only kid there, and we had such a beautiful time with singing nice melodies on Shabbos, Friday night, and we had cholent that was never ever made again, like Mr. Davis of Shalom, or there's another shamus there also, I forget his name. They made that cholent, and we ate together, we learned together. That was in Wilmington, Delaware, until there was no school system, and the kids went away until Chabad came down, and they little by little they're building up the people by welcoming centers, which is important. But I want to go to the right meat of the crux of the situation, and that is to learn everyone. We're a kingdom of Kohanim, we're a kingdom of priests. Every one of us is a priest, means that we should learn. In 19:6, chapter 19 in Genesis, verse 6, it says, what does it say over there? If you observe the covenant and listen to my words, God is speaking, if you observe my covenant and listen to my words, then I will make you a kingdom of Kohanim, where everyone is a priest, where everyone knows the law, where everyone is so happy, enjoying enjoying the study of the Torah. You want to say, well, how come, if they're so smart, the Jewish people, they're really observant, knowledgeable people, how come they're not into the business mode or into the professions? And you do have some, but I know personally, I could have made, I could have been a millionaire, and it was, I'm not trying to joke or anything, but at that time, I said, it's going to take away, I said to myself, it's going to take away from my thoughts of the Torah, if I have to think about this business. And that's why the Jewish people, the rabbis, the heads of the yeshivas that are teaching, I like to see what they teach. I like to see the curriculum that they're teaching. Open your curriculum up to the general populace. But I remember that I said, it's going to make too much time away from, my thoughts are going to be turned away and I could have been a millionaire. I mean, I don't know what could have happened, but it was a path. But I said, down deep, I came so far, and I'm not going to let my people go, and I'm going to try to succinctly bring Torah to the people. You know, I tried to get into the yeshiva, into the yeshivas over there. When was that? In the 59. You know, I'm not trying to be humble or anything, but I'm not smart. I'm not smart. I persevere. I know when there's a truth, I persevere. And where did I go? I went to, bottom line, I was rejected by Chabad, right? They don't have facilities for me. And that was in 1959. I went to YU. I went the same day. I went up, and it was very informal there. And I went to a class, and the rabbi said, "Let me check your records," and he said, "No, we can't accept you." So then I went to Rabbi London's yeshiva. That was very poor, but it had a lot of good deeds. I didn't realize what the Talmud was about. And I started at a high level. I never got anything, so to speak, but I learned a lot of good deeds to do. But I'm still connected with the yeshiva. Their nephews that run a similar yeshiva in Brooklyn, 2102 Avenue T, like in Thomas, right? They take in all the homeless of New York is found in that place, 2102 Avenue T. They take in all kids that were not accepted by other schools because they were crippled and they couldn't get insurance for whatever reason. So yeah. So what I want to tell the people is, look, it's not about me. It's about you. It's about saving the world. It's about your job in this world, the Jewish people. Get the art scrolls, linear, Talmud, brachos, it's called blessings. You can buy it. I shop at Z Berman bookstore on Central Avenue in Cedarhurst. Get one of these things. They're so interesting. You do 3, 4, 5 words. You do the footnotes, and then I have. I do this, you know, and you see on TV the nice shiny books. My books are beat up from where I get an art scroll to all the 24 written books. This is on ideology. Rejoice, O Youth. You have to get that. Get it at Z Berman. Rejoice, O Youth, the cheapest place in town. Rejoice, O Youth by Rabbi Miller, but he got this. He wrote these thoughts down when he was at the yeshiva in Slovakia in Poland, pre-war Poland, where he got this from Sinai. These are ideology, linear. Behold the People gives you a synopsis of all the 24 books. Don't know the 24 books of the Torah. So where am I? I don't know. Who won the ball game? I don't know. So that we have. Look, the 5th column is Ben and Jerry. Keep up the boycott of Unilater, because they think they're doing good. You know, they don't know Torah. They let them think about Ben and Jerry. You know, in Vermont, the state of Vermont, the Americans drove out 4 Indian tribes. One of them was the Iroquois. They drove them out of Vermont, pushed them into Canada. That's Vermont. Ben and Jerry. Here, you're right. You live in the United States. Do justice. Don't come to Israel. We have boundaries. There's no 2-state. There's only 1 state. And that includes both sides of the Jordan River. Both sides of the Jordan River. Look at Numbers 33. Chapter 33:1. Is it 33 or 34? And Numbers, right? The book of Numbers, the 5 books of Moses. Book of Numbers. It delineates the boundaries of Israel. All the boundaries of Israel are delineated. They are all delineated. They're personally given. Forget what Biden appointing Blinken as Secretary of State. Yeah, because he's a Jew. He's a Secretary of State. He's a Jew. And so they'll do the dirty work for him. They're giving Biden, Obama, they gave $500 million to get back into UNESCO. Past dues that Trump kicked out because it's so anti-Semitic. And Biden is another rat who wants to do injustice to the Jewish people, who wants to go against God. He wants to go against God. And as a result, he is going to be ostracized by not only the world, where he's thought of as garbage. He's no leader. He's bringing America down. The sooner we get rid of him, the better off we are. This is the boundaries of Israel. We don't have the other side of the Jordan River. Show this to Biden. These are the pioneers. These are the ones that live on a border, who walk their baby carriages and machine guns in the other hand. They are the true pioneers. They're the true followers of Torah. And here we have the Exodus coming back in 1946, 7.